Grand Admiral Vorkshin slumped in his command chair, 4 of his 6 appendages drumming impatiently against the polished obsidian armrests. The battle hologram floating before him painted a grim picture, red indicators vastly outnumbering the blue. The Centauri armada was losing. Again, 18 cycles. He muttered to no one in particular. 18 miserable cycles of war against those Drekken savages. And what do we have to show for it? 37 star systems reduced to cosmic debris, trillions of lives extinguished, and the noble Galactic Confederation pushed to the brink of collapse. His executive officer, Commander Pelora Nix, hovered nearby, her translucent skin cycling through anxious shades of green and purple. Perhaps the Council's decision to seek outside assistance isn't entirely foolish, Admiral, she ventured cautiously. Vorkshin shot her a glare so intense it could have melted Durasteel. Outside assistance? You mean begging primitives for help? The great Centauri Empire, masters of 11,000 star systems, reduced to groveling before barely space-faring species. Not just any primitives, sir. Pelora corrected, her skin now settling on a diplomatic teal. The humans, humans. Vorkshin's voice boomed across the command deck, causing several junior officers to flinch at their stations. Those violent, chaotic, unpredictable bipeds who haven't even unified their own pathetic planet, who still fight among themselves over arbitrary lines drawn on dirt, who consider pizza a viable food group. The same humans, Pelora continued undeterred, who developed faster-than-light travel only 90 standard cycles ago and already have outposts in 17 star systems. The same humans who, when the Kraul attempted to harvest their oceans, annihilated the entire Kraul harvester fleet using nothing but chemical rockets and nuclear warheads. Vorkshin waved a dismissive tentacle. Lucky primitives facing even more primitive aggressors. The Kraul were scavengers, not warriors. And the Drekken are consuming entire star systems, sir. Perhaps we need unconventional allies. The massive view screen at the front of the bridge flickered, interrupting their debate. The stern visage of Grand Counselor Zefix materialized, his ceremonial head crest fully extended. A sign this was an official communication of the highest order. Admiral Trell, the counselor's voice resonated with the artificial gravitas all politicians seemed to perfect, regardless of species. The decision has been made. The human delegation has accepted our proposal and is dispatching a contingent to assist with our situation. Vorkshin straightened in his chair, dignity attempting to mask his outrage. With all due respect, Counselor, this is madness. We need reinforcements from the core worlds, not soft-skinned primates who think sending electromagnetic signals into space constitutes sophisticated communication. Counselor Zefix's head crests flattened in irritation. The core worlds have nothing left to give, Admiral. Our fleets are stretched thin across 3 galactic arms. The humans have agreed to commit forces immediately. Their delegation will arrive at your position within 6 standard hours. 6 hours? That's impossible. Their fastest ships would take days to... They insisted on using their own transportation, Zefix interrupted. Apparently, they have methods we are not familiar with. Vorkshin felt his third heart begin to palpitate. And what exactly do these humans propose to do against a Drekken force that has decimated our finest battle groups? The counselor's expression shifted to something Vorkshin couldn't quite identify. Was that amusement? Or fear? They said. Zefix paused, as if still processing the information himself, and I quote, "We will handle it." End communication. The screen went dark, leaving Vorkshin staring at the starfield beyond, mouth parts hanging open in disbelief. They will handle it? He finally sputtered. Handle it? The Drekken have consumed 7 major civilizations. They have transformed entire stellar populations into biological components for their hive ships. Their armor repels our most advanced weaponry. And these humans, think they will just handle it. Commander Pelora maintained a diplomatic silence, though her skin had shifted to an unmistakable shade of hope yellow. Commander, Vorkshin finally said, his voice dangerously quiet, prepare the fleet for the arrival of our guests. And may the cosmic architects have mercy on us all. Tactical Officer Jixel Vin had been monitoring the long-range sensors when the anomaly appeared. At first, he thought it was a malfunction. The readings made no sense. "Admiral," he called, his voice cracking slightly. "I'm detecting a spatial distortion approximately 300,000 kilometers from our position. It's unlike anything in our database." Vorkshin frowned. "Drekken emergence pattern?" "Negative, sir. This is different. Energy signatures are off the charts, but there's no radiation bleed. It's almost as if a massive tear appeared in the fabric of space directly ahead of the Centauri fleet. Not the calculated precision of a hyperspace window or the elegant spiral of a wormhole terminus, but a jagged, violent rip in reality itself." Alarms blared across the command deck as automated systems detected the space-time distortion. The tear widened, edges crackling with energies that shouldn't exist in normal space. And from within its impossible depths emerged a box that is simple, rectangular box. Proportionally perfect, gunmetal gray, with no visible propulsion systems, weapons arrays, or even navigation lights. Just a box, roughly 1 kilometer on each side, floating serenely where moments before there had been nothing but empty space. "What in the seven hells?" Vorkshin whispered. "Admiral," Communications Officer Tatsi Rem's voice was tight with confusion. "We are receiving a transmission. Audio only. It's in perfect high Centauri. Put it through." A voice filled the command deck, casual, almost cheerful, and distinctly human. "Hey, a big guy. This is Captain Marcus Jackson of the Earth Force Special Operations Group. Heard you folks have a bit of a pest problem. Mind pointing us in the direction of these Drekken fellas? We are on a bit of a tight schedule. Got dinner reservations back on Earth in about 6 hours." The bridge fell silent, every Centauri officer frozen in disbelief. Vorkshin found his voice first. "This is Grand Admiral Vorkshin of the Centauri Defense Force. Identify your vessel and explain your method of arrival immediately." A chuckle came through the speakers. "Like I said, Captain Jackson, Earth Force. As for the ship, well, we call her the FedEx because we deliver. Special prototype, first of her kind. Now about those coordinates." Vorkshin felt his temperature rising dangerously. "Captain Jackson, the Drekken are the most formidable enemy the Confederation has ever faced. They have destroyed entire civilizations. What exactly do you propose to do with your box?" "Oh, the human replied casually, "Handle it." Commander Pelora leaned close to Vorkshin. "Sir, the Drekken main fleet is currently engaged in consuming the resources of the Talaris system. They are only 3 light years from our position." Vorkshin hesitated. Perhaps this was for the best. Let these arrogant humans see firsthand what they were up against. A quick, brutal education in the realities of intergalactic warfare might be exactly what their species needed. "Transmitting coordinates now, Captain Jackson," Vorkshin said, signaling to communications. "But I strongly advise waiting for our battle group to accompany you. We can be ready to depart in no need for an escort." "Admiral," Jackson interrupted, "we have got this covered. But hey, feel free to watch the show. We will be broadcasting on all standard frequencies. Consider it a free demonstration." Before Vorkshin could respond, the impossible box began to move. Not with the gradual acceleration of conventional drives, but an instantaneous, physics-defying lurch that carried it several thousand kilometers in a heartbeat. Then it vanished, leaving not even a ripple in space-time to mark its passage. "Did they just teleport?" Pelora asked, her skin now a confused mauve. "Impossible, Voxion muted." "No known technology can, sir," Tactical Officer Van called out. "The human vessel has reappeared at the edge of the Talaris system. They are transmitting visual data." "On screen," Vorkshin ordered, his curiosity overwhelming his irritation. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a real-time feed from the edge of the Talaris system. The sight was familiar and terrifying. A massive Drekken hive fleet. Dozens of their enormous biomechanical ships arranged in their characteristic spiral formation around the system's sun, siphoning its energy while smaller harvester craft stripped the planets of resources and life. At the edge of this apocalyptic scene floated the human box, seemingly insignificant against the scale of the Drekken armada. "Are they insane?" Vorkshin whispered. "The Drekken will consume them in seconds." As if on cue, Captain Jackson's voice returned to the communications channel, but this time it seemed he was addressing the Drekken. "Attention, ugly, tentacled space monsters. This is humanity calling. We understand you have been causing quite a ruckus in this neck of the galaxy, and folks are getting a bit tired of it. So here's the deal. Pack up your creepy organic ships, return all the people you have processed, or whatever, and head back to whatever nightmare dimension you crawled out of. You have got exactly 5 minutes to comply before we get unfriendly." Vorkshin covered his face with 2 of his appendages. "They're going to die. They're actually going to die." On screen, the Drekken response was predictable and swift. 3 of their destroyer-class vessels broke formation, their massive, twisted forms turning toward the human box. Streams of corrosive bioprojectiles, the same weapons that had melted through Zentari battleship armor like snow, lanced out toward the tiny human craft. "And here we go," sighed Vorkshin, bracing himself for the humans' swift destruction, but the projectiles never reached their target. Instead, they simply stopped. Midway between the Drekken ships and the human box, the deadly missiles hung suspended in space, as if time itself had forgotten them. "What the?" Vorkshin leaned forward, eyes wide. Captain Jackson's voice returned, noticeably cooler. "Well, that wasn't very neighborly. Tell you what, since you're new to dealing with humans, I will give you one more chance. Stand down, or we start getting creative." The response from the Drekken was immediate. All of their vessels began moving toward the human box, their organic hulls pulsing with gathering energy. "Sir," Tactical Officer Venn reported, "the Drekken are powering up their main gravitational weapons. Those are the same weapons they used to implode the Gamelin star." On screen, Captain Jackson sighed audibly. "Some folks just have to learn the hard way." "All right, Lieutenant Wallace, show them what happens when you pick a fight with the monkeys from Earth." What happened next defied explanation. The human box unfolded, not like a machine, but like origami in reverse, its surfaces stretching and separating in directions that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of geometry. As it reconfigured, glimpses of its interior became visible. Not mechanical components or crew quarters, but what appeared to be an infinite void filled with stars that didn't match any known constellation. That's not possible," Pelora whispered, her skin now white with shock. The box completed its impossible transformation, now resembling something like a stylized human hand, 5 enormous fingers extended toward the approaching Drekken fleet. From these fingers erupted not beams or projectiles, but ripples, visible distortions in the fabric of reality that spread outward like waves on a pond. When these ripples reached the Drekken vessels, the results were extraordinary. Some ships simply vanished, as if they'd never existed. Others folded in on themselves, collapsing into impossibly small points of light before winking out. A few seemed to transform, their biomechanical structures rearranging into abstract sculptures that hung motionless in space. In less than 30 seconds, a third of the Drekken fleet had been erased from existence. The bridge of Vorkshin's flagship had fallen completely silent, every officer staring at the screen in stunned disbelief. "Admiral," Communications Officer Rem's voice was barely audible, "we are receiving thousands of distress signals from the planets in the Talar system. Life signs are appearing on worlds the Drekken had already processed. It's as if they are being restored." The human voice returned, casual as ever. "Oh yeah, almost forgot to mention, we are putting everything back the way it was. Figured that would be the polite thing to do. The folks who got processed are being, unprocessed. They might be a bit confused for a while, but physically they should be good as new." Vorkshin couldn't form words. His mind refused to process what he was witnessing. The remaining Drekken ships were now in full retreat, their formation broken, vessels scattering in all directions like startled prey animals. But the human device, whatever it truly was, wasn't finished. Its fingers extended further, reaching across impossible distances to touch the fleeing ships. Wherever they made contact, Drekken vessels simply ceased to be. "Captain Jackson," Vorkshin finally managed, his voice hoarse. What are you doing to them?" "Oh, nothing permanently harmful," Jackson replied cheerfully. "Just showing them to the exit. We have opened up a nice little dimensional pocket where they can cool off and reconsider their life choices. Think of it as a cosmic timeout corner." But how? This technology, it's beyond anything." "Yeah, we get that a lot," Jackson laughed. "Look, not to be rude, but we have still got about 4.5 hours before those dinner reservations I mentioned. Mind if we wrap this up? I promised my wife I wouldn't be late this time. On the command deck of the Centauri flagship, absolute silence reigned. The officers stared at the view screen, mandibles slack, as the impossible unfolded before them. The human vessel, the so-called FedEx, had just neutralized a third of the Drekken Armada in seconds using what appeared to be locally manipulated violations of fundamental physics. Admiral, Science Officer Trazix finally broke the silence, her voice trembling. I have analyzed what little data we could gather from the human weapon. It's not a weapon at all. They appear to be manipulating dimensional boundaries at a quantum level. In plain Centauri, please, Vorkshin snapped, still trying to process what he was witnessing. To Trazix's eye stalks quivered. They're folding space, sir, not traveling through it like our hyperdrive technology, literally folding it, like taking a piece of fabric and creasing it to bring distant points together. That's theoretically impossible, Commander Pelora interjected. The energy requirements alone would. 2 more Drekken capital ships just vanished, sir. Tactical Officer Van interrupted. And I'm detecting, by the cosmic architects, thousands of escape pods launching from the remaining vessels. Vorkshin leaned forward. The Drekken are abandoning ship? In all 18 cycles of war, we have never seen them retreat, let alone abandon their high vessels. On screen, the remaining Drekken ships were indeed disgorging small craft by the thousands. The once fearsome spiral formation had dissolved into chaos, with vessels firing engines at maximum capacity in all directions, desperately trying to escape the human construct's reach. Captain Jackson's casual voice returned over the comm system. Admiral Trell, seeing as how we have got things pretty much wrapped up here, would you mind sending some recovery vessel for these escape pods? We could round them up ourselves, but honestly, paperwork isn't our strong suit. Vorkshin found himself literally speechless. His third heart was now definitely experiencing palpitations. Commander Pelora stepped forward. We will dispatch recovery vessels immediately, Captain Jackson. But what exactly have you done to the Drekken leadership? Oh, that's the neat part, Jackson replied cheerfully. We had a little chat with them. Turns out when you strip away all the biotech and hive mind stuff, they're actually reasonable folks. Just got caught up in a bad cultural trend, you know? Conquering stuff seemed cool a few millennia ago, but we helped them see it's not really sustainable as a lifestyle choice. You communicated with the Drekken hive mind. Vorkshin finally managed. Our best xenolinguists spent decades trying to establish basic communication protocols without success. Well, yeah, but you were trying to talk to them in conventional space, Jackson said, as if explaining something obvious to a child. We just popped a few of our diplomats into their consensus reality. Face to face, mind to mind. Much easier that way. The human ship, now back in its simple box configuration, drifted serenely among the wreckage of what had been, mere minutes ago, the most terrifying military force in known space. Admiral, Communications Officer Ram called out, we are receiving signals from across the Confederation. The Drekken forces are standing down everywhere. Reports of surrenders from the Proxys sector, the Gamma Quadrant, even the core world's defense zone. Impossible Vorkshin whispered. That's over 40,000 light years away. How could they possibly know? Yeah, about that, Jackson interrupted. We sent a few courier boxes to the other Drekken fleets, just to make sure everyone got the memo. Hope that's okay. Vorkshin sank back into his command chair. In 15 minutes, you have accomplished what the combined forces of 11 galactic civilizations couldn't achieve in 18 cycles. 14 minutes, actually, Jackson corrected. But who's counting? Now, if you don't mind, we should probably discuss the peace terms before I have to head back for that dinner date. The Grand Council Chamber of the Centauri Confederation had never before admitted non-member species. Its vaulted ceilings and ceremonial architecture were designed specifically to accommodate the various physiologies of the 11 founding races, with gravitic adjustments, atmospheric bubbles, and specialized interface stations. Yet here stood Captain Marcus Jackson, a simple human in what appeared to be a casual uniform, at the center of the chamber, surrounded by the most powerful leaders in known space. Looking completely at ease, Grand Counselor Zephix presided from the elevated central dais, his ceremonial head crest fully extended in formal greeting. Captain Jackson, The Confederation owes you and your species a debt that can never be repaid. You have, in a single day, ended a war that has claimed trillions of lives and threatened the very fabric of our civilization. Jackson shrugged, an oddly informal gesture in such august surroundings. Happy to help, Counselor. Honestly, we have been monitoring the situation for a while, just waiting for an official invitation to join the party. Monitoring? Borkshin, standing at the military position to the right of the central dais, couldn't contain himself. You mean to tell me you knew about our war with the Drekken and did nothing until now? Non-interference policy, Jackson replied with a grin. Basic rule when dealing with developing civilizations. We try not to meddle until we are asked. Developing. Vorkshin sputtered, his skin flushing with indignation. The Zentari Empire has existed for 50,000 cycles. We had mastered faster-than-light travel when humans were still figuring out which end of a spear was the pointy bit. Admiral, Counselor Zephyx warned, but Jackson just laughed. No offense intended, Admiral. By developing, I meant in terms of dimensional physics and universal constants manipulation. You folks are absolutely cutting edge with conventional space-time tech. Top-notch. Before Vorkshin could respond, the massive doors to the council chamber slid open, and a procession of bizarre creatures entered, Drekken representatives. Without their biomechanical augmentations and war apparatus, they looked almost fragile. Tall, slender beings with iridescent skin and large, compound eyes, moving with a fluid grace that seemed almost dance-like. Ah, there they are, Jackson said brightly. Everyone, meet Diplomatic Overseer Tzkielke of the Drekken Consensus. They have had quite the change of heart regarding galactic relations. The lead Drekken approached and made a flowing gesture with its upper limbs that somehow conveyed both respect and apology simultaneously. When it spoke, its voice was melodious and complex, layered with harmonic overtones. We offer profound regrets for our civilization's actions. The translation came through the chamber systems. Our species evolved in a region of space where resources were scarce and competition was the only path to survival. For millennia, this mindset dominated our collective consciousness, even after it was no longer necessary. The Grand Counselor's expression remained carefully neutral, and we are to believe this change of perspective is genuine and permanent. Oh, it's genuine, all right, Jackson interjected. We gave them a guided tour of a few alternate timelines, showed them where their consume everything strategy ultimately leads. Nothing like seeing the heat death of the universe to give you a fresh outlook on cooperative living. A murmur ran through the assembled council members. Borkshin leaned toward his science officer. Is he saying they showed the Drekken the future? That's not the future, Trazix whispered back. Alternate probability streams. The humans appear to perceive time non-linearly. The Drekken Diplomatic Overseer continued. As a gesture of our sincerity, we have already begun the process of restoring all worlds we have harvested. Our bioengineers are reconfiguring our harvester technology to rebuild rather than consume. Within one standard cycle, we believe we can restore approximately 83% of the damage our species has caused. And the other 17%, asked a council member from the aquatic delegation. Jackson stepped in. That's where we come in. Humanity will help with the really tricky restoration cases. Some things even the Drekken can't undo with their current tech level, but we have got a few tricks up our sleeves for temporal regression and ecosystem revival. Borkshin couldn't restrain himself any longer. This is madness. For 18 cycles, they have been the scourge of the galaxy, and now we are supposed to just forgive and forget, because one human ship showed up and had a chat with them. The council chamber fell silent. Jackson turned to face the Admiral, his expression suddenly serious. With respect, Admiral, that's exactly what you're going to do. Not because they deserve immediate forgiveness. They don't. But because holding on to hatred after a conflict serves no one. Trust me, humans wrote the book on pointless grudges. We spent most of our history killing each other over every imaginable difference before we figured out how stupid that was. He gestured toward the Drekken delegation. These folks made a horrible mistake. Okay, about 10,000 horrible mistakes, but they want to make it right. Where I come from, we call that growth. Counselor Zephyx studied Jackson carefully. You speak with wisdom beyond your species' apparent development, Captain. Yet there's something I still don't understand. If humans possess such advanced technology, why have you maintained the appearance of a relatively primitive, fractured society? Our observers on Earth report constant conflicts, technological inconsistencies, and a chaotic political structure. Jackson's mouth quirked into a half-smile. Let's just say Earth serves a special purpose. It's our proving ground, a place where we test ourselves, our ideas, our societies. A controlled environment where we can experience the full range of what it means to be human without the shortcuts our technology would provide. You're saying Earth is, what? Some kind of elaborate simulation? Borkshin scoffed. More like a nature preserve, Jackson corrected. For ourselves, most humans living there have no idea about our true capabilities. They live authentic lives, facing authentic challenges. The struggles, the triumphs, the messiness of it all. That's the point. But why? Asked a council member. Because comfort doesn't create character, Jackson replied simply. We learned that the hard way. A few thousand years ago, we almost went the Drekken route, using our dimensional tech to solve every problem, satisfy every desire. We became less than we were, lost something essential. He paced a small circle, gathering his thoughts. So we made a choice. We created Earth as it exists now, a place where we could reconnect with our roots, live lives of authentic challenge and growth. Most humans are born, live, and die there never knowing the truth. Those of us who serve an Earth force are drawn from the small percentage who have shown particular aptitude for understanding the bigger picture. The chamber was utterly silent now, every council member transfixed. You maintain this deception with your own kind? Borkshin asked incredulously. It's not deception, Jackson countered. It's cultivation. Like I said, Earth is our proving ground, our spiritual home, the source of our humanity. Those of us who leave it carry that humanity with us into the stars. Counselor Zefix's head crests fluttered in what might have been awe. And now you choose to reveal yourselves to the wider galaxy? Why now? Jackson checked a simple device on his wrist, a timepiece, remarkably primitive for a species that could manipulate dimensions. Because you asked nicely, he said with a grin, and because the Drekken situation had reached a tipping point. Left unchecked, they would have eventually developed their own form of dimensional manipulation, and that wouldn't have ended well for anyone. He glanced at his watch again. Now, I hate to be rude, but I really do need to get back to Earth. My wife's making carbonara, and if I'm late again, I will never hear the end of it. Just one more question, Captain, Borkshin said, his earlier hostility fading into genuine curiosity. If what you say is true, if humans possess this level of technology and understanding, why bother with us at all? Why not simply retreat to your dimensional spaces and leave the troubles of conventional space-time behind? Jackson's expression softened. Because we tried that once. Isolation, transcendence, whatever you want to call it. And we discovered something profound. Connection matters. Diversity matters. The beautiful mess of different species, different perspectives, different ways of experiencing the universe. That's the whole point. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, of each council member in turn. The Zentari, the Drekken, all the species of this confederation. You each perceive reality in ways humans never could. Your art, your music, your philosophies, your sciences, they're all unique expressions of conscious life engaging with the universe. That diversity is precious, irreplaceable, worth protecting. A small alert chime from his wrist device, and Jackson straightened. That's my 2-minute warning. The FedEx will be folding space in 90 seconds, with or without me on board. Captain Jackson, Counselor Zefix, said formally. The Galactic Confederation extends its most profound gratitude and formally invites humanity to join our alliance as full members, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. Jackson smiled. We accept, Counselor. Earth Force will send proper diplomatic representatives within the week. They will help establish protocols for cultural exchange, technology sharing, the appropriate stuff, not the reality-breaking stuff, and mutual defense. He turned to face Borkshin one last time. Admiral, it's been a pleasure. Try not to stress about the whole humans are actually an ancient, dimensionally transcendent species thing. from one military man to another. Sometimes it's better not to overthink these situations. With that, he pressed a control on his wrist device and simply vanished. No flash of light, no dramatic effect, just there one moment and gone the next. The council chamber remained silent for several long moments after his departure. Finally, Commander Pelora, who had been standing quietly beside Vorkshin throughout the proceedings, leaned over and whispered, "I believe unconventional allies might have been an understatement, sir." Vorkshin managed a short laugh despite himself. "Indeed, Commander. Indeed." 3 standard days later, Admiral Vorkshin Trell stood at the observation deck of Centauri Central Command, watching as the first Drekken restoration ships arrived to begin their work on a nearby devastated world. The massive vessels, once weapons of consumption, had been reconfigured into tools of renewal, their biological components now programmed to rebuild rather than destroy. Commander Pelora joined him, her skin a contemplative blue. "The first human diplomatic delegation arrives tomorrow," she noted. "The council is in a frenzy preparing appropriate ceremonies." "Let them fuss," Vorkshin said, his tone surprisingly light. "I have been reviewing the preliminary cultural data the humans provided. Did you know they have over 5,000 distinct varieties of a beverage called beer? And something called aeriality television? That makes no logical sense whatsoever." "I did not," Pelora replied, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Will you be attending the reception?" Vorkshin watched as the Drekken ships began their work, specialized appendages extending to touch the scarred surface of the planet below. Where they made contact, barren ground began to transform, colors returning to the gray wasteland. "I will," he confirmed. "I have questions about their technology, about their carbonara," Vorkshin said seriously. Captain Jackson seemed quite concerned about being late for it. Any food that commands such respect from beings who can fold space-time deserves investigation. Pelora's skin flushed a surprised pink before settling into amused yellow. "I will add it to the diplomatic briefing requirements." Together, they watched as life returned to the dead world below, a process that should have taken centuries unfolding in hours. In the growing network of green spreading across the planet's surface, Vorkshin could almost make out a pattern, something like a message, written in the language of renewal. When he squinted, it almost seemed to spell out, "We will handle it." Perhaps the humans already had.